Good afternoon and welcome to this briefing by the Jerusalem Press Club. My name is Matthias Akal, I'm project manager at the club. Our topic is Egypt and our guest today is Amira Oron, senior researcher at the Institute for Strategic Studies, the INSS, and previously the Israeli ambassador to Egypt until 2024. In her diplomatic career before that, she served as director of the Egypt department at the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs and also as Church Affairs and Deputy Chief Mission in Ankara, Turkey. Hello, Ambassador Oron, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so I would like to dedicate this briefing mainly to two topics, and I hope you can shed light on them. The first one is Egypt's reported plan for Gaza, presented as an alternative to Trump's relocation plan. And the second is the apparent massive arms race the Egyptian army is conducting, mainly in the Sinai Peninsula. But let's start with the first one. What can you tell us about the Egypt plan for Gaza?
Egypt is very much interested in having a plan that will conclude all the factors and all the players in the region, and of course the Palestinians and the other Arab countries, and also Israel, and to get the blessing of the USA. Egypt is very much interested that Gaza will not have any more wars, and that Gaza will be reconstructed, and that the Gazian people, the civilians, will be able to live there. Egypt opposes the control of Hamas. They don't like it. They would have loved to see someone else taking charge or control on Gaza, and the someone else is by nature, in their eyes, is the PA, the people of Ramallah. They also look at Gaza as part of the West Bank. I mean, West Bank and the Gaza is one political unit that is supposed to be in the near future, maybe not now, but in the near future, the Palestinian independent state. So if we take this framework that I was just elaborating on, they would love very much to see Gaza being constructed, having some kind of viability from the economic point of view, to have projects to really develop this place with the coastline and the fact that it sits on the Mediterranean. There is also the gas field in the waters of Gaza. Israel doesn't have any requests on this field, which is called Gaza Marine. So there are many possibilities to develop Gaza, and all in all, again, to create the Palestinian state that Egypt wishes to see on its border, with one control, one army, one government, and of course, not fundamental, not extreme, and not behaving according to the doctrine of the Muslim Brothers, because as we remember, the Muslim Brothers are the enemies of Egypt. 12 or 13 years ago, we remember that the Muslim Brothers managed to take control in Egypt for 1 year, and we remember what were the results. Therefore, Egypt would like very much to see the people of Ramallah, the PA, which are considered also the legitimate representatives of the Palestinian people, taking control on Gaza. They will need help, and Egypt is ready to give that help. They don't wish to see the Gazians being taken out of Gaza, according to Trump's plan. They think this is a red line that cannot be crossed, taking out people, or imposing on them to leave Gaza. This is something that is totally denied and rejected by Egypt.
Okay, but do you believe that if Trump remains persistent, he will be able to influence Sisi to adopt his program?
I don't see it as a possibility. As I said, it's a red line for the Egyptians. By the way, this terminology, red line, was presented on October 2023 by President al-Sisi long before Trump was elected. And if you remember, back then, there were declarations from officials, Israeli officials, even seniors, saying that the Palestinians should move out from Gaza and go to Sinai. And Egypt must open its gates. Al-Sisi immediately responded and declared that for them, this is a red line. They cannot accept the possibility that Palestinian people, refugees, we talk about 1 million and more than 1 million, will come and live in Sinai. Sinai is the land of the Egyptians. It's only for Egyptians. We see this kind of declarations time and again now in the Egyptian media. They are not going to be responsible on these refugees. And also there is the fear, and El-Sisi said it back then on October 23, that some of the people that might come to Sinai out of Gaza will be people that can conduct terror against Israel. And then terror actions will come out of Egypt against Israel. Israel will respond. And here we are in a very terrible situation where the peace agreement between Israel and Egypt is under danger, is under threat. So they cannot have it. They will not accept it. I can dare to say that if by any chance there will be some kind of big pressure on Egypt that I cannot even imagine which kind of pressure, it will result in several steps that Egypt might take. It will hurt our relations with them, also the peace agreement, it might. And it will put the leadership of El-Sisi under a lot of pressure. And I have to remind all of us, there are enemies to this regime, and I mentioned it again, and I will remind it time and again. The Muslim Brothers, they're sitting outside of Egypt, waiting for any kind of mistake, of any kind of pressure, of any kind of a question mark on the legitimacy of this current regime in Egypt, to take the lead or to change the reality. I think it will be not in favor of Israel, not in favor of the stability in the region. Therefore, we should be very, very careful and take into considerations the different threats that are facing us now.
So do you mention that the Israeli-Egypt peace agreement is under threat? And I'd like to move over to the other issue, that is the apparent massive arms race the Egyptian army is conducting. Do you consider that a threat to the peace agreement?
I want to correct the peace relations, the peace agreement might be under threat. Is not now, might be because of the different conditions and the evolving situation that I just described. Regarding the presence of the Egyptian army in Sinai, first of all, this is the territory of Egypt. The massive presence of the army over there is connected to the past, and the past is 13 years ago. Again, we have to go back to 2011, when there was a revolution against Mubarak, and we saw that Mubarak left his chair in 3 days, and then Egypt started to lose control, to lose the control on the security of Sinai. And we saw a lot of terror attacks against Egyptian soldiers, officers, policemen, and also terror attacks were conducted against Israel on the border. Egypt understood that it must give a quick answer and an urgent answer to this threat, to its sovereignty. And Egypt asked from Israel to allow her to enter more weapons, more soldiers to Sinai. Sinai is a place that is
Sorry, we cannot
militarized.
hear you. Yeah.
Sinai is a region that is demilitarized. thanks to the peace agreement. This is part of the peace agreement between Israel and Egypt. There are 3 lines of demilitarization, and according to these lines, Egypt is allowed to enter certain weapons and certain forces. Egypt asked and Israel agreed. It was an agreement between the Egyptian government and the Israeli government to allow more army, more forces into Sinai because it was a mutual interest to fight terror. From that day until today, there is a mechanism that is coordinating and controlling the amount of weapons, soldiers that entering Sinai from the Egyptian side. Um, on top of that, there is also another mechanism, another military force that maybe some people are not familiar with. It's a small, a tiny army, we can say. It's a military force. This is the MFO, Multinational Force and Observers, that is stationed in Sinai from 1980, according to the peace agreement between Israel and Egypt. And its responsibility is to control the whole issue of demilitarization of Sinai. And they are doing it. And there are offices to this organization here in Tel Aviv, in Cairo, and there is always a dialogue between the Israeli army and the Egyptian army, always taking into account this understanding and also what was agreed upon, as I said, 10 or 11 years ago. So what we see now is according to understandings that both countries managed to have together. Egypt definitely enlarged its presence as of October 7 because they have the fear that because of the very massive war that is taking place now in Gaza, the Palestinian civilians in Gaza might start or look for a place to leave Gaza, and they will start going or try to cross the fence and to cross the gates between Gaza and Sinai and get into Sinai. This kind of scenario is totally, again, unacceptable by the Egyptians. Therefore, they decided to enforce or to enlarge their presence in Sinai. And again, they are doing so, but the Israeli army and the Israeli government are aware of that. If you remember, since October, there were many, as I was saying, there were declarations from the Israeli side, let us make the Palestinians go to Sinai. So all in all, it didn't help and it didn't create the sense of tranquility in the Egyptian side. Therefore, they are taking actions. But again and again, it has a defensive nature. They are not going to attack Israel, as far as I can tell you. Egypt is totally committed to the peace agreement with Israel. Israel is totally committed to the peace agreement with Egypt. And this is how it should stay. Unfortunately, the last few days, we really see a trend, and I think it's a very negative trend of a lot of videos, declarations, analysis in the social media by private people, not by officials, talking too much and actually playing the drums of war. And this is totally not helpful. It's not helping, and it just enlarges the tension between the countries.
Okay, thank you for that and for that clarification. I would like to take this opportunity to take a question from journalists. There is one journalist asking why does Egypt care so much about keeping the Gazans in Gaza? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure, because they believe that as I said, that the problem, now there is a problem in Gaza, the war, of course, and what Hamas did, the terrible attack on us, and now the destruction. They believe that all of it should be solved by establishing the Palestinian state. Therefore, by emptying the land, the Palestinian land in Gaza, it totally rejects this idea of establishing a Palestinian state that will live next to Israel. This is how they see it. This is the only solution that they are working for and pushing forward, the two-state solution. And therefore, if the Palestinians will leave their land, there is no need of talking about the Palestinian problem or any kind of solution. And there are many question marks. What might happen in the West Bank? Will it be annexed to Israel? And again, the dream or the hope for a Palestinian state will be over. Of course, anything that will happen in the West Bank immediately affect Jordan, and Egypt and Jordan are very much coordinated, and they see eye to eye this situation. Also, Jordan believes that the two-state solution is the only solution. So because of that, and because of what I've said about Sinai, and that Egypt cannot accept people that and a different kind of community into Egypt. By the way, for just to say, there are already 9 million refugees living in Egypt, most of them from Africa, 4 million from Sudan. And therefore, Egypt is not ready, and is not going to be ready to accept any more refugees.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. We have another question from a journalist who is asking about the demilitarization mechanism that you mentioned before, and if it's allowed for Egypt to build military bases in the Sinai, and if not, how do you explain the disclosures made by Ambassador later about such construction going on?
Egypt probably made some kind of construction that is a violation for what was agreed in the military annex of the peace agreement, and also from the different current agreements, as I was referring to, as of 10 or 11 years ago. The ambassador talked in a closed circle. Unfortunately, it was taken out to the media. By the way, it was taken down from the different sites because it says that the Israeli government is not interested in blaming and pushing this kind of tension vis-a-vis Egypt. If there are these kind of violations, yes, I'm aware of that, it should be checked. It must be checked. I agree totally. But again, there is mechanism for that. There are Israeli officers in the army working in the intelligence. This is their job. They know how to do their work, and they must look into it and discuss it with the Egyptians, and as I was saying, also with the MFO. We have the mechanism, we have the channels. This is why it is not needed, and it's totally not helpful to deal with it in the media.
Okay, thank you for that. We are going through a critical moment here in Israel, talking about the potential of the future second stage of the hostage deal. And there is a journalist asking us what is the most important leverage Egypt may have in pressuring the Israeli government to proceed with this second stage, and also to Hamas, I will add. What can you tell us about that?
As we know, Egypt is already 15 or 16 months is totally involved in getting to the any kind of agreement between Israel and Hamas. By the way, when we talk about bringing back our hostages, our kidnapped people from Gaza, Egypt looks at it from the ceasefire point of view. Egypt needs it very much to have the ceasefire, because it will enable to start rebuilding Gaza, to calm down all the other players. We know what the Houthis did in the Suez Canal. Egypt lost a lot of income because of that. And it gives more energy to the Muslim brothers, and so on and so forth. So Egypt really needs the ceasefire, and they are working for that to put it down. They are pressing Hamas. As far as I know, they are pressing them very hard. They did the same in previous years in the different agreements that we had with Hamas. they are telling them that they will not allow construction the way they want, because it is one of the conditions for the second stage of our agreement with Hamas. So definitely Egypt, I am sure, is pressing and pushing Hamas very much. And I think Qatar has much more leverage on Hamas, because we know where the leadership of Hamas resides. Therefore, I believe also Qatar should do the same. Uh, I want us to put an attention to something new that is very, very important. The General Secretary of the Arab League, Abul Ghet, which used to be the Egyptian foreign minister, put on the table the following. He said to Hamas, you have to give up everything for the sake of the Palestinian cause. Now this is what is on the table. You, Hamas, must leave. You will not be part of the future of Gaza and the future of the Palestinian state. This is my words. But because for us to be able to save the Palestinian cause, as the Arabs see it, as the Arab League or Egypt, and I was talking about it, that there should be a Palestinian state. So therefore, what actually Abu Ghaid said to Hamas, you cannot even have what they dream to create a situation like Hezbollah in Lebanon, where there is a government which is dealing with the civilian affairs and they are controlling the weapon. No, even that, no, it's enough. So Abu Ghaid said it, and I think he's not just someone. As I said, he is the General Secretary of the Arab League. So I believe this kind of things are being now discussed, and the pressure is quite high on Hamas.
Okay, thank you for that. So the Arab League is aligned with Israel in this position that Hamas cannot be part of the solution after the war. I would like to go back to the Trump's relocation plan, because we have two questions from journalists. One is, do you think there will be legal implication for the government and security forces involvement in attempting to carry out this voluntary migration of Gazans? This is the first one. And the second one, do you think Egypt will be willing to resist the Trump plan, even at the cost of losing US aid?
About the first question, it is related, of course, to Israel and the Israeli policy. Definitely such a dramatic step, maybe even historical step, should be discussed in all its aspects. And there are many aspects to that, as this question was referring to. But I think I will not add more. But absolutely, there are many, many aspects to such kind of policy or step that might be taken in the future. Regarding Egypt, yes, they are aware of the threat that already was referred to by President Trump, if I recall, that that he will put forward some kind of economic pressure. Yes, there is an American aid to Egypt. It's a military aid. By the way, this aid is part of the peace agreement with Israel. Israel is enjoying it, and also Egypt. Both countries got it after the peace agreement. Therefore, to take it out, to abolish it completely, I think we should look into it. What does it say about the peace agreement? Because it is connected to it. But even saying that, there is also civilian aid, and the U.S. aid was working in Egypt, and there were a lot of funds and projects that were financed by American money. Yes, this is true. But the Egyptians are saying we are ready for everything. If they will take it out of us, we are not going to change our mind, our policy. And I have to also to remind ourselves, Egypt is getting a lot of aid from other Arab countries. Number one is the Emirates. A year ago, Emirates helped the Egyptian economy by granting or by establishing a huge mega project that costs $35 billion. It's a lot of money that was granted or given to Egypt in return for establishing a huge project on the northern beach of Egypt on the Mediterranean. Therefore, they believe, they understand that, or they know that they will get aid from the rich Arab countries. So they don't want to look at this threat as a major issue. But I have to tell you, as an Israeli, and now as an ex-ambassador and an immediate neighbor to Egypt, I think the Israeli interest is, and it's pure interest, that Egypt and the USA will be in good and close relations. I think this is what is needed for us. This is how it is. This is the way things are conducted as of 79, after the historical decision of Sadat to let go the Soviet connection, and he turned into to the States, and after that we managed to conclude this peace agreement. I think this is the interest of Israel, that Egypt will stay in good terms, in good relations with USA, and therefore I hope we will not get to this point.
Okay, thank you very much. There's another question. If you
Last
could
question.
clarify. Sorry?
Last question.
Yeah, last question. If
Okay.
you could clarify again why the media should be silent or silent about the Egyptian violation of the peace treaty in terms of its military buildup in the Sinai Peninsula, is that the reports are inaccurate.
The media should not be silenced at all, never. But the media should do a professional work, and to watch out, to look carefully what is being published, by whom, where, how. There is a lot of fake news. Needless to say, you are in the media, you know your work. There are also some groups, interest groups, that are trying to create this exaggerated tension between Israel and Egypt. By the way, I ask all of you to have a look at the IDF last press release. It's also, there is a report in Ynet that the IDF spokesperson took out, saying that lately there were videos and fake news that were taken out, as if Israel is talking against Egypt, is blaming Egypt, and all of this kind of negativity towards Egypt. And this is totally fake. This is not true. And I think it was a very important clarification. It came out. Thanks God it came now, because again, the Egyptians are responding to it, and we all must be very, very, very
Sorry
careful.
to interrupt you. I would like to ask this final question. Do you believe that foreign governments or foreign entities could be influencing these perceptions?
Look at the press release. They're talking about regional forces. The IDF spokesperson press release is talking about regional forces. I read it just 10 minutes before I entered to the Zoom. So I believe there is a hint here. We can say that we know that there is at least one country that would love Hamas to keep on going, to stay on its feet, and we know who is behind Hamas. Therefore, we can assume that maybe this kind of people are doing this, or other people. But look carefully at this press release.
Okay. Ambassador Oron, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for being with us. I would like to also thank my colleagues Iman Safadi and Jonathan Beck for making this briefing possible. As always, the recording of this briefing will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. And thank you, all of you, for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye.